Elle Wood, nice to have you with me again. You have had a phenomenal career in terms of, I would say, this is in my own opinion now, how quickly you rose to sort of being the best agent in the country. So I mean, now we've asked you to fill in a few questions here, we asked you your track record. You've said you're new to the industry. So you've gone from new to the industry to director in 4 years, but that's only half of it. You went to director, but you also ended up taking that EA Masters trophy home for being the best agents in the country. So the next question I'm going to ask you, maybe I've already answered it, but what are you most proud of in your professional career?
Yeah, definitely the speed with which the team achieved that, I think. And the way that we were just all so on board with it all, which was down to the leadership, which wasn't me. But I just think it was quite an extraordinary time of what we achieved. And we were pioneering the use of social media. There were only a handful of other agents doing that at the time. And I just think all of that combined was just really exciting, and yeah, very proud of it.
And to what extent does winning awards like that actually is important for the team going forward? So for argument's sake, if I turn around to your team and said, listen, guys, I think you're the best in the country, you'd probably laugh me off and show me out the door. But when you actually bring home that trophy and you sit there looking at it going, holy shit, we're the best agents in the country, does that mean that you have to refocus your efforts to kind of stay on that trajectory? And I suppose the reason I'm asking that question is you and I both have a wonderful friend who's now won that award 2 years on the trot.
I know, best.
And I feel I love her to bits, and I love her team to bits, and I know they're always going to try and beat their own efforts. Yeah. But my word, does that not set the pace for the team?
I can't speak for Michelle's gang. I think, to answer your first question, which was something around like, what does winning awards like this mean? At the time, when we were invited to go to the ceremony and stuff, we were adamant that we weren't going to go because we were busy doing business. We set no store by awards and weren't interested at all. And I think what happened for us was when we took the trophy home, we were able to sit down with the analysis of what went on. And that actually, it wasn't just how many reviews can you get, because that comes down to if you've got the most customers, like I'm never going to get the most reviews because I'm a tiny little business now, but if I was a big business, I could get loads of reviews. So that doesn't seem real to me. And we were quite pleased when we got the analysis back that it was quite as comprehensive as it was that year. And I think that gave everyone a boost, and it gave everyone in the team a nice pat on the back from an external source. So that was really nice. And it validated, definitely not a word, validated what we were doing. So then we all felt kind of motivated to carry on doing it, where sometimes you can start something and then it tails off, doesn't it? But I think we tailed off later than we would have done. But how Michelle's done it, goodness only knows. She's quite the force to be reckoned with.
There's a lot of stamina there, and she, do you know what? Her only competition is herself now. That's it, going forward. But it is a phenomenal to both of you, really, in the context of, I think when you won it, this whole kind of contest and competition element to it was a lot younger, wasn't it, in terms of the sort of data it was drawing on and what it was getting at. And I remember at the time, I kind of cheated a little bit because I knew Matthew, so I knew a little bit of what was going on behind the scenes. But I remember thinking at the time, particularly when I saw you on camera, you were out there on camera doing stuff before the rest of us had realized that was kind of the key to staying visible and staying prominent. Is that something you kind of just stumbled on yourself? Or, I mean, because it takes guts, doesn't it, really, to take that leap from being in somebody's living room to actually sort of beaming yourself into the living room across media?
Yeah, I think it was pretty nerve-wracking to begin with. But you know, that all came out of the 2016 conference that Gary Vee was talking at. And I think if you're the kind of people that want to stay ahead of the game, then you're the kind of people that are listening to what, you know, what other agents and what other industries are doing as well. And seeing how influencer marketing was starting to grow then, and, you know, all of that kind of stuff, it just became a no-brainer. And we went on the Chris Watkin video training day, which he's now re-advertising, which I would recommend to everybody because it's very good value for money. So yeah, we did that. So I don't think we were the first, but I think we were amongst the first. Does that make sense? Because there were,
no, it makes
we went on that course with, you know, Chris was the one leading the course, and we weren't on that course on our own. There were other agents there. But I think also it's not down to only the video, it's about all the processes behind it, which is why my pyramid of success analogy works, you know, because the digital marketing is only the pinnacle, it's only the peak on top of the triangle pyramid. And if you haven't got processes underneath that, and you haven't got well-being underneath the processes, none of it works anyway. So
Josh, we don't want to give too much away. If people want your pyramid to success secrets, I highly recommend they book a session in with you. But it was a phenomenal achievement, and it still is. So I suppose we find ourselves in a very it feels like an odd point in the market where we're sort of between major world events. In the UK, it feels like we have a new world event every week. We've been on a never-ending news cycle, and to be honest, most of us have switched off. But I think what is clear is there is a bit of a turn in the market, and there is a bit of a more of a challenge out there, or that the challenges are different. So with that in mind, if you could give an agent just one piece of advice, I know you've got many, but if you could pick one that would help them to sort of grow, or if they were just starting out in the industry, what would it be? What's the one thing that's kind of been your guiding light, if you like?
Processes, I would say, because I think that if you get those in place, then you take away a lot of the legwork for your brain. You know, a bit like when we get in a car, we can automatically drive it because we've done all those practice sessions of learning how to do it. You want to get your business to a place where actually it works on automatic in a way. And of course it never does, because plumbing goes wrong, and, you know, sales fall through and all of that kind of stuff. So, and that's the roller coaster of a estate and letting agency. But if you can get those processes in place, which comes down to all that other stuff of knowing your numbers and having your stock med sorted and getting your nurture sequences in place, scream it for the people in the back, all of that kind of jazz and jizzle, then I think then you're onto a good thing.
It's interesting. It's like, I don't know if you've ever taken any flight training in the past, but if you do, they always teach you that if your visibility is limited and you're up thousands of feet in the air, the only thing that you can rely on are your instruments. You know, you've got to focus on that. And the processes are the same, aren't they? They're the absolute guidance that if you stick to this, it doesn't matter what your visibility is, you shouldn't go far wrong.
Yeah, completely. And I think that's another reason that Orchards Estates did so well when we did, was because Matthew's so good at setting those systems in place, so that in a good market you're succeeding, but in a bad market you're succeeding. You know, good market, bad market, those are subjective obviously, but, you know, he always worked us as if it was sort of a tough market, regardless of whether it was a good market or not. And I think that those techniques meant that the fluctuations in the market didn't affect us as much as they could have done.
There are, like we've said, there are many sort of different factors and many different challenges. But if you could pick one challenge facing our industry today that you feel that we really should spend more time collectively trying to solve, or that you'd like to see solved, what do you think it would be?
I don't know. There's so many elements. I mean, my mum's literally just sold her house, and it's been really upsetting to see the reality of the consumer receiving estate agent advice from the very first MA inquiry through to what we are now in the conveyancing section. And, I just don't think it's good enough. So I think what's one thing that we could do is be a damn sight better.
And as she during that process, does the sort of lack of, I suppose, service that you would expect an agent to provide to a seller, is that exacerbated by what we've heard is horrendous situations in the conveyancing side of things? When you put those two pieces of the puzzle together, it's a really, at the moment, it means that it's hard to shine, isn't it, when you've got such challenging circumstances. But really, I suppose what you're getting at is that there are a lot of enlightened agents out there who do put customer service at the heart of what they do. But I think you and I probably both look at a majority, quite a significant number of agents who are still very much providing the same service that they might have done 20 odd years ago.
No, at best 20 odd years ago, at best. No, I don't think it's just the conveyancing that's the issue. I mean, the conveyancing is terrifying, absolutely shocking and appalling. But I also understand that I know nothing about that whole side of things. So I wouldn't really want to comment on it other than to say it needs to be better. But I mean, she's in a chain of people where there's not a single mortgage involved. So why on earth, has it got to wait till January? It's just obscene. And I think there's a lot of laziness because we used to have to deal with those solicitors. But it's the same way that in the estate agency, even at the MA, coming to the appointment bit, it was like that has nothing to do with conveyancing, and they still sucked, and you're like, come on, guys, this is like the opportunity that you really, really want. Be better. Be better. That's what's going on the front of your interview. That's your tagline. Be better. I think that's good advice for anybody. You're very well regarded within the industry. I can tell you that. Behind your back, we say nice things about you. But who would you look to in the industry? Who sort of inspires you? Who do you think should be on an influencer list? Michelle Gallagher. I don't know if she'd want to be, because I know that she's not a huge fan of public speaking. So I would say that her natural modesty perhaps prevents her, but she deserves to be the shining light for all of us. I know Megan 18 is already with you. Yeah. Who else is awesome? I mean, I don't know. Liana, Claire Hughes, all these people. I mean, the whole women in estate agency group, basically, because all 2,200 of them, they're the best. But
there is I was almost going to say disproportionate, but I don't think there is. I just think there are an amazing number of stars within that group of women, and I think they were always there, but I love the visibility now. I love the fact that it's out there and it's accessible to everybody. And I think, it shouldn't mean anything to people like me, but if I was female and a young negotiator and I needed role models, you've got them. And I think that's superb. I don't think, if you guys have achieved one thing, it's the fact that everybody has something to look forward to, but to look up to as well, and it's great.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, if we could get more people that wanted to join the industry instead of what most of our stories are, which are we fell into it, then that would be a real aim for us. But also, I think that there's a lot, because it's not sort of like a bra burning kind of group. It's just what you've said, to put role models in place where actually maybe they might have been a bit more hidden just because they're not as noisy sometimes, or whatever, I don't know, natural modesty or all of those different reasons. They're busy, but it's just a really nice space. It's got a slightly different vibe just because of what it is, and we've got a conference that we're putting together for next year. So I think that by highlighting female work and issues and things like that, actually everyone benefits from it. And there's lots and lots of studies that actually show that as well. Factual studies rather than feminist burning studies, because I'm not really in that camp of that militant feminism, but it is just quite a lovely role model-y type space, which is quite nice.
I think it's nice, and it proves as well that you don't need to be militant in order to bring about change. You just need to be consistent, present, and supportive, and I think that's what they've got there. And
that is the tagline for all estate agents. Be consistent, present, supportive, and you are the local agent of choice. That's it. That's literally it.
There we go. We've nailed it. We've asked you for your favorite quote, and I find it really interesting. Your favorite quote is, "If at first you don't succeed, redefine success," which to me is a tremendously positive way of looking at life. So if you hit a brick wall and something's not working, you just need to redefine that goal, perhaps, or how you achieve it. Has this served you well during your time, and how do you use it?
Yeah, 100%. So it was a little metal sign that I bought when I was in my 20s, possibly even a little bit younger, because my original career didn't work out, and that was devastating, and that kind of became a pattern up until my 30s. So I think it's just a case of trying to work out, like, actually, I was at school where Emily Blunt was, and her agent was my agent, and I was meant to be the next one, and it didn't work out that way, and that's very challenging to live with, seeing her on Graham Norton. But I'm fine with it, because I redefine success, and being an estate agent is brilliant. I think that it's just one of those things to remind yourself, actually, your version of success isn't the only one. It's that thing that feelings of. We were watching with our lodger this terrible program, like American Dream Home Design, or so, I don't know what it was, but they were so delighted with their homes that they'd redone, and they were screaming, and it was just really over the top and all of that, and it was lovely that they were happy, don't get me wrong, but we were giggling a bit because our lodger lives in a VW van on part of our land, so like these people are like, oh my god, I can't wait till our family and friends see this and how they're going to all react. And we were thinking, oh, it's a bit big and a bit cold, and so like their version of success had nothing to do with what ours was like, living on a mountain in Spain. And I think that's just really interesting, that feelings are
kind of what I understand from that is that sometimes life just has a plan of its own in terms of fate, if you believe in that sort of thing, that sometimes that overrides what the viewpoint that you have might not be that big a picture of how things are going to plan out. But when I think people that are absolutely so rigid with their success plans that when it doesn't go right, that's it, it's the end of their world, and they never recover from it. And I think that's probably the key is in the recovery, isn't it? It's being able to sort of say,
the bounce back ability.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it's about fate for me, and I'm not sure it's about life having a plan that you haven't got control over, because we've always said the harder we work, the luckier we get. So I don't really set much store by that other side of things. I understand people do it, that's absolutely fine. I'm not knocking it. It's just it doesn't work for me when I go through it. But what does work for me is thinking I've got control over how I feel about it. And don't get me wrong, I'm dealing with a really challenging situation at the moment, and I'm not coping with it. But I'm trying. And if I'd have known that, if I'd have had those techniques to deal with it at a much younger age, then maybe I would have not suffered sometimes when I needed to redefine the success. Actually, I could have done that more turning on a sixpence, because that's what it feels like sometimes. If you're going to be this big star, this whatever that looks like to you, whether that was acting or doctoring or estate agenting, and it doesn't work out, then your ego hurts, and then where do you go from that? Because that is really, really challenging. And the weight of other people's expectations on you is really challenging. And I always say I don't really suffer with that, but actually I haven't got any children, and my mum really suffers because she always expected me to have children, and that's not happened, and that's really difficult to then live with that. So, you know, if you've got all those outside influences coming in, then you've really got to redefine success for yourself. And I think that can be really challenging, but it's also possible. It's not easy, but it's possible, I guess.
That's really good advice. Thank you for sharing that with us. Thank you very much.